Never know with those little gremlins, I think they call them. Is that the term? Gremlins?
The gremlins?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's the official term there. The official terminology.
Joining me in studio is a good friend of mine, Keon Rose. And Keon, a lot of transitioning is going on in college football. I mean, we've been seeing it, especially here in the SEC. Now, Brady Hoke, who's been a head coach, that is, at Michigan, San Diego State, and Ball State, right now is the interim up in Knoxville. How do you see the final two games coming down? I mean, with LSU this Saturday, and then you got Vanderbilt, which UT should win. If they don't, then they ought to fire Hoke and everybody on staff. I realize the coaches aren't the ones that play the game. It's the players. But it's Vanderbilt of all teams.
Right. And I know that this is record-wise, at least one of the better years for Vanderbilt football.
Yeah.
But Tennessee ought to beat them. But also, Missouri's one of those teams that Tennessee ought to beat too.
Yeah, but Missouri only had 2 losses going into that contest last weekend. I mean, they've actually played some good teams out of the SEC.
Yeah, and their quarterback Drew Lock, he's amazing as far as just past the vertical game, that spread attack that they run. So I understand that one. I'm still worried about the Vandy game. I'm not worried about the LSU game because they're not going to win that game. Like, that's not.
You really believe that?
Vegas has LSU as 15.5-point favorites. That sounds generous. I actually think that LSU could.
That sounds convincing. For Tennessee's sake, it sounds convincing for LSU to win by that much.
Yeah, it does. I think that LSU could probably win by more.
Yeah.
Even. It's. The only way that game stays within, I think, 2 touchdowns is they're not really a passing team, LSU. Danny Etling's an okay quarterback. He's decent. But the Vols have been really bad in their secondary and just generally on defense, really. So it's going to be tough for me to say that they could really even hang with LSU, but they should beat Vanderbilt. I mean, no matter how bad everything is going, that's going to be the barometer for just how low things can get, whether or not you actually beat Vanderbilt.
Now, are you of the opinion that if the Vols can beat LSU this Saturday up in Neyland Stadium, Hoke's got the job?
I think, okay, so I think a couple of things have to happen. That's one. If he beats LSU, that's a big feather in his cap.
Right.
Then the other thing is he's got to pick one of these quarterbacks, and that guy's got to look good for 4 quarters of football. Because we haven't seen it yet. I mean, we've seen some brilliant moments from Dormady and some brilliant moments from Garantano, but we haven't seen anything from both guys that would suggest that this guy's the guy that should be your quarterback full time. If you can get 4 quarters out of either of these guys and that offense looks competent and smooth, and you beat LSU, I feel like it's his job to lose.
All right, now Hoke is really playing the game, and he's playing it very well. He's not naming a quarterback yet.
Right.
And that could be for a couple of different reasons. Not trying to give off what your game plan could be to give LSU any time to prepare.
Little gamesmanship.
Right. And who they're going to be featuring in the backfield, who are going to be some of those wideouts that, whoever the quarterback would be. Who do you think is going to be that quarterback, though? If you were to guess, if you were Coach Hoke, Brady Hoke, this is your first game, and you really need to make a big impression if you want to get back into a head coaching gig. Who are you going to put all that trust into?
I would say you'd have to ride Garantano. I would think, just because he's the younger guy, but he's got the bigger upside, the stronger arm, all of those things. And I think you're a little bit more limited if you go with Dormady. That being said, this LSU defense is not easy to score on, and you want to go with the freshman in this situation. That's a risk too.
Right.
But I would still lean towards Garantano.
Okay. Even Cody Copeland, I think, would have been a better choice in there as well. But we have him down here. So
I mean, it's just this is a tough one. This is a tough game, and I understand Brady Hoke has been through the higher levels of coaching before, so he's going to make the decisions that work best for him ultimately. But yeah, I just think that he's got a whole lot to gain here if he does make the right call and does make the right choice. Granted, if they end up going with Gruden or something, then it doesn't matter what he does.
Right.
They're going to go with Gruden.
I really think that John Curry is going to wait until after the Vanderbilt game to make that call, saying, all right, Coach Brady Hoke, we're going to take the interim tag off of him. He's our guy. Then it's like a whole plethora, the assistant coaches are going to have to be wondering, all right, have I burnt my bridge, and saying things, or do I have Coach Hoke's confidence, to stick around? I mean, because like when I read that story on Monday, about the separation agreement, with Coach Jones, if all of his assistants and with Coach Jones, almost $13 million that UT is going to be writing out.
Yeah.
For coaches, that can sit on the sidelines for another year because they're the assistants are in the first of a 2-year contract, because that's how they do all their assistants. They are 2-year contracts, and this was the first year here of that. But still, I mean, they're going to be comfortable if they do get let go, and they could probably go and pick up, a gig somewhere else. But, Gruden really is eluding the question, and that may be professionally told to him to do that. And maybe Tennessee is telling him, hey, just hold off here,
right.
Don't give any indication that you're being considered, and don't say that you don't want it. But I think they're really grooming right now Hoke. If he wins these 2 games, he's in. If he wins one of the 2, a 50-50 chance here, whether or not. But
right. And if you win one of the 2, make sure it's the Vanderbilt game.
Yes.
Because I mean, that's part of the reason why you had to consider, a possibility that Butch Jones could be fired mid-season was last year he lost to Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah.
And that was a tough one.
Yeah. But what I can understand, and I still believe this, and I have not been around Tennessee football that long, I think the meltdown began middle of last season. They went 5-0, and then something snapped, and it's like the players just didn't give a rat's rear end whether or not they won or lost.
I wouldn't say that something snapped. If you look at those games that they won when they went 5-0, those games were those were basically coin flip games in the moment, right? Like they needed a miracle comeback to beat Florida. They had the Hail Mary against Georgia. Like a lot of those games were coin flip games. And so, you ran the table and went 5-0. Well, the next thing that's going to happen to you is.
But it's rare for a team to start off and have a perfect record, and then they lose the rest of the season. That just doesn't happen.
Not really, but I think that a lot of their flaws did end up getting exposed once they lost a couple of linemen.
Yeah.
Once you lose 1 or 2 linemen, and then you were already struggling to win some of these games in the first place. Now you were getting it done, but you did struggle.
Right.
Once you got to that point where you lost 1 or 2 guys on your line, especially your left tackle, I mean, you're going to be fighting for air on that one.
Right, especially when your left tackle is trying to protect your quarterback at all costs.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not easy.
And Josh Dobbs was running for his life last year.
Yeah, it seems like the quarterbacks this season have been running too, but
they're just not as fast as him.
No, they're not. But don't forget to join Keon here coming up at 7:00 with the Clutch. And what are you going to be talking about tonight? Give me a little plug here.
Yeah, okay. We're going to talk a little bit of NFL. You've got the Thursday night game tonight. The Titans are on playing the Steelers.
I'm rooting for the Steelers.
Are you now?
Oh, yes. I just moved here from PA.
That's okay. Fair enough.
I only know 2 players on the Titans, Mariota, and then with DeMarco Murray.
Okay, well.
A former Eagle, which well, no, I'll take that back. He did play for the Eagles very briefly, but he was with the Cowboys before that.
Yeah, and then they just didn't pay him.
Right.
But he's been great with the Titans.
I'm surprised that the Titans have traded Murray, because there was a few teams that were interested in him, even the Cowboys when Zeke, got into his issues. But I think Murray was smart by not going back to the Cowboys, because, Zeke's only going to be out, several games, and it's like, then he's going to be relegated to the bench. So why not use Darren McFadden and their other running back? So I think Murray was smart with staying with Tennessee. And Tennessee, they're what, 7-2 now?
I think they're 6-3.
6-3. Okay. And, and I know the Steelers are 7-2. So, I mean, this is going to be a pretty good matchup of a game. I think the Steelers are going to edge them out, but
depends on which Titans team we see. If we see the Titans team that opens up their offense and they actually let Mariota throw the ball, that's a dangerous football team.
Right.
If they're the conservative, we're going to grind it out. I don't think you can beat Pittsburgh that way. I don't think you can beat Roethlisberger that way.
Well, I think that if they can stop Bell from the backfield, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I think in the previous 2 games that the Steelers have had, the opposing teams have been able to do that. And that's got to be a key. And if you can get that secondary broke, at Pittsburgh, I think Tennessee could, because Tennessee's been able to air it out. And like you said, Marcus, has got an arm. He really does.
He does.
He has not gotten the exposure that he probably deserves, since being signed by the Titans. But he's got one of the better arms in the NFL, hands down. I think he does. And he's only, 26, 27? He ain't that old.
No, I think he's this is his doing his third season.
Yeah.
So he's about 25 years
25. All right. Yeah. I didn't think he was too much far into his career, but age wise, and that's great. I mean, if you can have that consistency like he has for the last 3 years, he could go as far as what Tom Brady and Big Ben has been able to do, with taking it right up to 40, and they still got the arm,
Yeah.
But Mariota, and I may be pronouncing it wrong, and I'm sorry, but I just think he is probably one of the better young gun arms that are out there. Wentz wouldn't be too far behind.
Yeah, well, at this point, I think I might take Carson Wentz over Mariota, just in terms of his command of that entire offense.
Right.
Now, it could just be that the Eagles just let Wentz do more, but I do like Mariota in terms of his downfield passing ability and also his accuracy, and that's something that I thought when he came out in the draft with Jameis and he ended up being taken second. I actually thought he was the better of the 2 quarterbacks because he came out being more accurate. Jameis is not really an accurate quarterback.
He appears to me, and this is just pure opinion, trying to be another Cam Newton. As far as attitude and the gritty style that he exudes. It just sometimes he rubs you the wrong way, and Cam Newton definitely rubs me the wrong. I mean, he's got that effervescent smile. It's like especially when there's a camera around and everything. But but Jameis sometimes gives you that opinion as well at times. But he doesn't really get the limelight like Newton does, or some of the other bigger name quarterbacks out there. And the Titans quarterback definitely doesn't get the much deserved praise that he should. I mean, he's a good young buck.
Yeah, I think a little bit is it hasn't yielded in playoff appearances yet for him. I think this year could be the year, obviously, because you lost Deshaun Watson, the Texans did. Yeah. Colts don't have luck, and then the Jaguars are surprisingly good in the NFC South.
What's up with the Jaguars? I mean, where did they find?
Where did this come from?
Yeah.
You know what? This has been building all along. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the league. It's a top 3 defense. And they've just decided, you know what? We're not going to use Blake Bortles to really carry this team at all. We're going to give the ball to whoever our running back is 100 times a game. And that's the game plan. And then our defense is going to score points somehow and cause turnovers.
But I'd still take Blake Bortles over Jay Cutler any day.
Me too. Do
you think he's done?
Cutler?
Yeah.
He has to be. I mean, well, here's the thing, though. Statistically, because you could make the argument, if you just went based on pure numbers, you could make the argument that Jay Cutler is a guy that you could have on your team. There's still enough teams in this league with awful quarterback play for whom Jay Cutler might actually be an improvement somehow. But that if that's your problem, draft a young guy.
Right.
That's my thinking on it. But, GMs are crazy.
Right. Who do you see coming out of the college ranks? I mean, we're getting toward the end of the season. Do you see any outstanding quarterbacks on the college scene that could step up to the next level like Carson Wentz has, and with Prescott?
It's been a tough year for that, because I think that everybody had a bunch of guys pegged at the beginning of the season, and we're just kind of slowly backing away from all of those people as the years actually transpired. So you look at a guy like Sam Darnold out with USC with the Trojans, and he's a guy that was heavily praised. He was going to be a top 5 draft pick. Well, USC had some rough points. They lost a couple of linemen and a receiver or two. Sam Darnold has looked okay. He's looked very average, and I don't know that anyone wants to use their top 5 pick on a guy that's sort of regressed the way that Darnold has regressed this year. Josh Rosen at UCLA was another top-tier guy. We're supposed to really love Josh Rosen, but Josh Rosen is a horrible decision-maker with the football. He's got an arm. He's got everything you want in a quarterback, except he'll look at his favorite receiver in triple coverage, and he'll try and cram the ball in there, and it'll be a pick. So that's a tough one to basically figure out and tease out. Good. I like some players that may be coming out in not this upcoming draft, but the draft afterwards. And there are a lot of guys in the SEC that I really, really like a lot. We mentioned Drew Lock at Missouri earlier. I like him. Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State, basically filling the shoes of Dak Prescott over there, and Shea Patterson at Ole Miss. So there's some young guys. I just don't know if they're going to be in this upcoming draft.
Right. I think this draft here that we'll see will probably be more with the running backs, and in several potentially on the defensive side are going to be the big stars. I don't think we're going to see a big, huge choice of quarterbacks.
What's the name of the back at Penn State?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. I like him. Oh my gosh.
And you see how tall you are. He's not much taller.
Which that always blows me away with running backs.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I experienced this when I used to do indoor football. One of the best backs that we had for the Erie Explosion was like 5'2". But I mean, he was able to zig and zag, and I mean, he was like off to the races.
I had a friend who met Ray Rice one time, and Ray Rice is shorter than me.
Oh yeah,
and I'm 5'10".
Yeah,
but he said the reason why you knew Ray Rice was a running back, you'd see his thighs, and they'd be as big as you.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, very muscular. But Saquon Barkley is probably one of the nicest young men that you could ever want to come across, and he will always try to help you. That's my experience that I've had one-on-one being on campus. It's just that type of a student athlete. He doesn't put his achievements ahead of him, as far as with his walk of life. It's like, how can I help you, sort of thing. And it's like, that's unusual. But Barkley, I don't know if he's going to get the Heisman this year or not. I mean, he's been at the forefront, but I don't think he's going to now because of Penn State getting those 2 losses. I think that's hurt him quite a bit. But, on the other side of things at Penn State, Trace McSorley, I mean, he's one of those gritty quarterbacks out there. He's a junior this year along with Barkley. I'm telling you, they're going to have several coming out of Penn State next year. James Franklin, the former Vanderbilt coach, that's now up at Penn State, has really got some outstanding athletes up there. And Penn State's used to having 3, maybe 4 studs that are going to be in the top rounds of the draft. And I think that they're going to definitely experience that again. And of course, their defense has always been phenomenal. Even when they were down and they couldn't play in bowl games and stuff, they still were able to bring in tough guys in there. And the one thing that amazed me about Joe Paterno when he was the coach up there, and I know we're in the SEC and that's Big Ten, but I'm telling you, he took some athletes that were quarterbacks and wide receivers in high school and put them on defense because he was looking for speed on the defensive side of things, and that's why they always had an outstanding secondary. Yeah, he had the meat and potatoes up there on the front line on defense, but he was great at converting quarterbacks and wide receivers over to secondary or the middle linebackers and that sort of thing. Sean Lee, was a wideout in high school.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. That was the biggest one that I saw that he converted over and put on defense. And Sean Lee is not that tall either.
And he's one of the best middle linebackers in football in the NFL.
But he was on a wideout in high school when he got
pretty
signed.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was one thing that was uncanny about Joe Paterno. He was able to convert offensive guys over to the defensive side because he wanted to have that speed. And Sean Lee, I mean, he flies through there going for the tackle there for the Cowboys when he's in the game. He's had a little bit of injury and stuff. All right, you're going to pick Titans?
I'm picking the Titans, yeah.
All right, what's the score?
What's the score? This one, I'm going to go 24-21 Titans.
I'll say 30-24 Steelers. I think it's going to be a pretty good scoring game tonight.
I want to say that, but I mean, the Titans are one of those teams. They're so up and down. I don't know how many points they're going to put on the board.
That's true.
And I think that they're going to have to hold the Steelers down if they're going to beat them. You let the Steelers get 30 points. I mean, the game's over. You're not beating them.
Yeah. But like I said, if they can stop Bell in the backfield, I think Tennessee could pull a surprise upset. It really could.
Yeah, easier said than done, though.
That's true. That's very true. But so we're going to be talking about NFL tonight on your show.
Yeah, a little bit NFL, a little college, some UTC. The Mocs are playing Hiawassee College tonight, and they're 0-2 to start the season. This is the game that they usually use to turn things around. I mean, poor Hiawassee College. Hiawassee College is the whipping boy. If we can't get anything done facing our first two opponents, and I can't imagine that they planned on losing to Wyoming and UAB, but Hiawassee College, they're the team that's going to catch it tonight, and that's what I think is going to happen.
I don't think they thought that they were going to lose against Wyoming, because Wyoming is usually the whipping boy out in the West. But
that was their plan, I imagine. They were going to have a good game against Wyoming and then maybe have to grind it out against UAB a little bit. Instead, they just get crushed by both. Yeah. And now you look to Hiawassee College as the team that gets you back on track here, gets you a win so that you won't end up at the bottom of the Southern Conference.
All right, so that's coming up here at 7 o'clock, the Clutch with Keon Rose. And then coming up after that at 8 is Two Millennials Talking. Russell and Keon. I'm telling you, I'm not a millennial. I was born in the 60s, but I'm not a flower child either. But sometimes their conversation is very insightful. Not insightful, but insightful with an S-I-G-H-T. That's all coming up after the break. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night from 6 to 7 here on Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7 FM, 95.3 HD4. So long, everybody. Bye.